A man is doing some rough interrogation for a name because they need to wake the girl back up before it becomes dangerous. The men gives the name Dmitry Medvedev to avoid the torture. They give him a sedative once they get the name, and the interrogator turns out to be Ethan Hunt. The girl named Claire wakes up after Ethan injects her with something, and Ethan is relieved she's okay. On the plane, Jim Phelps is given a mission to look for Alexander Golitsyn because he's a traitor who stole one half of the CIA knock list, which has records of all their deep cover agents.
He is also a traitor. He has stolen one half of the CIA knock list.
Luckily, the records were split into code names and true names. A team is already chosen for the mission, and if anybody is caught or killed, the US will deny any involvement. They want Jim to find proof of theft, the buyers, and to arrest them all. Jim arrives in Prague to meet up with the team to tell them what the mission is and starts telling them their assignment. They start roasting Jim on his cushy recruiting assignments because he is getting the luxury life while they're drinking cheap coffee. Jim steers it back to the mission because if anybody that's not the United States gets the names, a whole lot of agents are going to die.
If they're exposed, they'll be executed.
Jack gives Ethan gadgets for the mission, and the others set up a perimeter for the area they will monitor. At an evening party, Jack climbs up the elevator to hook up a device that messes with the security system. Sarah disguises herself as Miss Norman to guide Ethan, who is also in disguise, and she marks their target, Alexander. Hannah uses her spy glasses to find the marking and calls out where Alexander is going. Jack is stuck in a rough position when the elevator comes down, which makes it harder for Jack to break them in. A security comes to get Sarah's ID to see if she's on their database. Jack luckily uploads her ID into their database in time to let them get through. They reach the database to set up a spy camera, but Alexander is heading to the database also. Ethan and Sarah were too late to get back on the elevator, and Jack couldn't control it, so Jim had to help with their escape. Alexander arrives to transfer the data, and they get the recording of it. Ethan and Sarah leave the building and they want to secure the package. The elevator starts going up and Jack dies because no one can stop the elevator from going to the top. Alexander escapes the way Ethan did, and Jim wants them to hold on until Jim arrives, but he notices that they are being ambushed. Jim wants to abort the mission, but Ethan doesn't listen and wants to retrieve the package with Sarah's help. Sarah follows Alexander while Ethan rushes to Jim to back him up, but Ethan is too late and he finally orders to abort the mission. A couple monitors Sarah, while she sees Alexander dragged to the gate, and when she walks closer, she sees Alexander getting terminated. Ethan runs to Claire, but the car blows up with her inside. He rushes to Sarah, but Sarah and Alexander are also neutralized. Police show up shortly after, and Ethan runs away to a payphone to tell Eugene Kittredge that his team has been wiped out because someone knew they were coming.
My team is dead!
Eugene will meet Ethan in an hour, and that got Ethan suspicious. Ethan goes to the meeting place and asks Eugene why there was another team because he recalls seeing a couple of IMF agents during their missions. Eugene tells Ethan there has been a mole in the IMF for over 2 years. They decoded a message from Max, the arms dealer who corrupts good agents and was planning to buy the knock list. Eugene set up a mole hunt, believing Ethan is the mole because he is the sole survivor of the mission and recently received a lot of money. Eugene wants to take Ethan in quietly, but Ethan is already thinking of an escape plan with the explosive gum. Ethan throws the explosive at the fish tank and water gushes out, letting Ethan run away. He sneaks back to the safe house to pack what he needs and starts researching what Eugene said about the mole. Ethan narrows down the search after going through the Bible and messages Max to meet up. Jim walks through the door heavily injured, asking for Ethan's help, but he is just hallucinating from exhaustion because it was Claire who woke him up. Ethan freaks out and pulls a gun on Claire because he watched her die in the car explosion, but she escaped the car explosion in time. He starts patting her down because he thinks someone sent her. Claire came back because if they aborted the mission they were supposed to come back at 4 a.m. Ethan tells her the IMF thinks Ethan is the mole and he plans to play into it to find out who's the real mole.
I can't find him, but if he knows I have a knock list, he'll find me.
Claire wants to speak with Eugene to clear up the situation, but Ethan doesn't think it's a good idea. They get a message from Max on how and where they will be meeting up. Ethan goes to the meetup location to meet Max, but he must wear a blindfold. Max allows Ethan to speak with her without the blindfold, and she finds out Ethan isn't job when Ethan demands $150,000.
I want $150,000 today.
Ethan tells Max the disc was fake because it was bait to find the mole in the IMF. Ethan will get Max the knock list if she gives up job and warns them the disc is a tracker. Max doesn't trust Ethan and starts it up, letting Eugene's team track them. Luckily they got out in time and Barnes wants to lock down Prague to arrest them, but Eugene knows Ethan can escape because they are trained to be ghosts. Eugene doesn't want to chase him and will let Ethan come to them. Max tells Ethan she paid Job $6 million for the disc and offers Ethan $6 million for the complete list. Ethan counters with a $10 million payout and Job has to be there for the exchange and Max agrees to the deal. He goes back to the safe house to tell Claire what happened and he is surprised Claire is willing to help Ethan find the mole. Ethan looks for help from the disavowed list and he meets up with Franz and Luther to tell them about the mission. Franz thinks Ethan is crazy because they are breaking into the CIA. Luther doesn't know if they can because he physically needs to be there to hack the system, but if they do, he wants to keep the equipment. Ethan gives a detailed report on how the security system works and is determined to break in.
And you really think we can do this?
We're going to do it.
In Langley, firefighters rush into the building and Luther helps them get through. Claire sneaks into a room to change while they go into the service room. She laces William's drink and places a tracker on him. Franz wants to eliminate the guard but Ethan doesn't want to have any death count and they start going through the vents. Ethan uses a machine to block the lasers and unscrews the vent. Franz slowly lets Ethan down but stops when William comes in. William vomits and rushes to the washroom to continue vomiting. Ethan uses the time to download the knock list. Franz is struggling to keep Ethan and when a rat shows up, he almost drops Ethan onto the reactive floor. Ethan starts sweating and catches the falling droplet. Franz starts pulling Ethan up when William is coming back but the rope is making noise because it went off the prop during the drop. Ethan can retrieve the disc and remove everything before William arrives but Franz drops his knife when retrieving the disc. William finds out someone messed with the mainframe and informs Eugene. Eugene is pissed and wants to ship William to Alaska for the massive F-up.
I want him manning a radar tower in Alaska by the end of the day.
Ethan tossed a gas grenade to create chaos and that let them blend into escape. In London, Ethan messages Max and Franz is annoyed with Ethan ignoring him. Franz wants to meet with the buyer but Ethan won't let him and Franz threatens Ethan with the disc. Ethan shows Franz a magic trick because he swapped the disc before Franz snatched it on the mission. Franz tosses the disc after threatening Ethan if he messes with him on the money. Ethan picks up the Bible and realizes Jim is the mole because he stayed at the Drake Hotel on his last mission. Claire apologizes to Ethan for bringing Franz in and tries seducing Ethan before going to sleep. Ethan takes the disc from the trash because he bamboozled Franz and gives the disc to Luther for safekeeping because if Luther knew what the mission was, he wouldn't have done it. Claire calls Ethan because they are arresting his family members on the news. Ethan goes out to call Eugene to threaten him and cuts the call before they can pinpoint his exact location but at least they know he's in London. Jim surprises Ethan and tells Ethan how he tracked him down after just missing him at the safe house. He tells Ethan that Eugene is the mole but Ethan doesn't believe him.
Kittredge, Ethan.
Ethan tries to think of how Jim pulled off the stunt and knows Franz helped eliminate some of them but Jim knows what he did. He knows Eugene will come because Ethan has the knock list and he plans to meet with Max tomorrow on the TGV en route to Paris. Claire and Luther will be with him on the train while Franz is waiting in Paris with a helicopter for extraction. Ethan messages Max on the meetup location and goes back to the safe house to get intimate with Claire. Eugene arrives in London the next day and is given train tickets to the meetup location with a spy watch. On the train, Jim is setting up his gun and waiting for Max to call him. Eugene and Frank are walking around to look for potential suspects. Ethan calls Max to tell her where the disc is and Andreas opens the knock list. Once she sees the list she tells Ethan where the money is located and when he gets the money Job will find him. Claire tells Ethan Eugene is lurking by and Ethan wants to meet Claire at the baggage car.
Money's in the baggage car. I'll meet you there.
Max has trouble connecting to the modem to transfer the data because Luther is jamming their signal. Luther tries to get away when he sees Eugene closing in, but the train steward gives Luther his phone jammer back before he can hide in the washroom and that stops the jammer from jamming their modem. Max tells Job that Ethan is in the baggage car and he heads that way. Eugene sees someone trying to break into the washroom but the guy stops and walks to another car to avoid Eugene. Claire tells Jim that it isn't a good idea to eliminate Ethan because Eugene is there and they should just escape with the money. Ethan reveals himself but Jim barges in to ask him when he knew Jim was a traitor. Ethan figured it out due to the Bible and Claire takes the money from him. Ethan had one more card to play which was revealing Jim to Eugene. Jim shoots Claire when she pleads to Jim and knocks down Ethan like he's nothing. Ethan goes after Jim when he finds out Claire is dead. The wind pressure is making it hard for Ethan to go after Jim without equipment and Franz shows up to extract Jim. Franz tries to hurry it up because he sees the tunnel incoming. Ethan takes the opportunity to hook the helicopter to the train and almost gets kicked off while Franz is forced to fly into the tunnel. Jim gets onto the helicopter and Franz tries to terminate Ethan with the blades. Luckily, the helicopter had to back off because it didn't have enough room, which let Ethan get on the helicopter. Ethan took out the explosive gum and stuck it on the helicopter. Due to plot armor, Ethan lands back on the train and nearly survives the helicopter's blades from chopping his head off. Eugene chats with Max after Luther gives them the disc. Ethan and Luther celebrate the win because Luther is off the disavowed list for assisting Ethan on the mission, and Ethan is glad Eugene released his family from BS charges like Trump's BS charges.
To you, Luther. Being off the disavowed list.
Luther wonders why Ethan won't go back, but Ethan doesn't have a reason to go back and leaves to catch his flight. On the flight, a stewardess recommends Ethan a movie and Ethan knows the IMF is giving him a mission. In Sydney, Australia at Biosite Pharmaceuticals, Dr. Nekhorovich injects himself with Chimera and begs Dmitri to come to Sydney to accompany him to Atlanta because he needs to arrive at his destination within 20 hours. He meets Ethan on the plane and Ethan finds out they successfully created a cure for Chimera, but Gradsky passed before Bellerophon was created. Too bad Bellerophon can't cure Chimera if 20 hours have passed. The plane suddenly experiences a drop in cabin pressure and Ethan goes to see if everything is okay. Everyone puts on their oxygen masks and passes out. Hugh lowers the altitude to 10,000 and puts the plane on autopilot. Dr. Nekhorovich is glad he didn't put it on, but Ethan eliminates Dr. Nekhorovich when he finds out Ethan isn't Dmitri.
You keep calling me Dmitri.
You are not Dmitri.
Ethan takes the briefcase and reveals himself as Sean Ambrose. They wear their gear and jump out of the plane after getting rid of the evidence. The co-pilot tries to save the plane when he wakes up, but it is too late and crashes into the mountains. We see Ethan climbing the Grand Canyon without safeties like pro rock climber Alex Honnold. He takes a risky jump and almost falls off, but plot armor saves him. Ethan reaches the top and the IMF shoots a rocket at Ethan to give him his next mission. They want Ethan to recover Chimera and can choose 2 teammates, but his third has to be Nia Hall because she is a professional thief like Catwoman.
Involves recovery of a stolen item designated Chimera.
Ethan must recruit Nia within 48 hours and meet Swanbeck at Seville to receive the assignment. If anything goes wrong on the mission, the US government will deny affiliation and the glasses self-destruct. In Seville, Spain, Ethan looks for Nia and when he finds her, she disappears. Nia sneaks upstairs and uses her gadgets to steal a necklace. Ethan is surprised and they get into an intimate position because someone walks in. Nia gets on top once the man leaves to pick the lock to steal the necklace while Ethan enjoys the view. Ethan warns Nia, but she triggers the alarms when putting the box back and the security team surrounds them. They get away with the robbery because the boss hired Ethan as the security consultant and Ethan forces Nia to return the stolen necklace. Nia declines Ethan's recruitment because he caused her to lose $500,000 necklace. Ethan triggered the alarm because he wanted to see how good she was and she drove away annoyed for getting bamboozled. Ethan catches up to her and offers to erase her criminal history if she helps him. Nia will help if Ethan can catch her and she starts playing bumper cars. Ethan is enjoying the chase, but he has to save her because she isn't keeping her eyes on the road. They spin out and Nia almost falls down the mountain, but Ethan saves her in time. They start making out when Ethan puts the moves on her and they end up in a room. Ethan wakes up mesmerized by her beauty and starts round 2. Later on, Ethan meets with Swanbeck and he shows Ethan the video of Dr. Nekhorovich creating a cure, but in the process creating a virus to the cure. He wants Ethan to escort him to Atlanta within 20 hours because he doesn't trust anyone but him. Ethan finds out Dr. Nekhorovich died in a plane crash, but Ethan doesn't know how Dr. Nekhorovich went without him. Swanbeck told Ethan they replaced him with Sean because they have similar builds. The head captain missed the flight but was found dead in a cargo. Swanbeck wants Ethan to use Nia to find out Sean's plan and where he's hiding because they were lovers before and Sean wants to woo her back. Ethan is contemplating using Nia to get to Sean, but Swanbeck is a cunning man and gets Ethan to do it.
This is not mission difficult, Mr. Hunt. It's mission impossible. Difficult should be a walk in the park for you.
Ethan returns to show Nia what Sean has done and would like her to be a part of the operation. Nia feels hurt because Ethan is using her after everything, but she finds out Ethan doesn't want to use her to get to Sean. She feels his affection and offers to help, but Ethan will need to arrange something where she would need Sean's help to get out, not to be suspicious. Ethan places a tracker on her and only his computer can track her. He knows Sean will know Nia has been arrested when he checks the news bulletins about the crash and will get her out. Ethan chooses Luther and Billy as his team and they meet up with Ethan. Luther tracks down Nia but is having issues with the visuals because of Ethan's trash computer and the satellite has a slow response time. Nia is escorted to Sean by his men and make out when they see each other. Wallace scans her to make sure she isn't wearing a wire and it comes back clean. Sean gives her a dress to change into but stops her to enjoy bedroom fun after checking her out. Ethan thinks Dr. Nekhorovich created a monster in Chimera and the antivirus Bellerophon to kill it. The next day, Sean is excited the buyer has his $37 million ready for him. Hugh thinks Naya is here for a reason because it's too much of a coincidence that she suddenly needs Sean's help. Sean gets annoyed with that question because he is willing to take the risk and gives Hugh a warning.
And I may or may not know why she thinks she's here, but I'm willing to take the risk.
They go to the house tracks and Naya somehow picks the winning horse. Sean goes to get drinks and Billy gives Naya a booklet with an earpiece so she tells Ethan what she learned. Ethan thinks the money in the newspaper is for potential buyers. Billy sees Sean meeting with John, the CEO of Biosite Pharmaceuticals, and is mad when Sean shows him a picture. John storms off and Sean puts the SD card away before returning to Naya. Ethan tells her where the SD card is and Naya swiftly steals it. Sean calls her back but luckily he doesn't know he got robbed. Hugh follows behind Naya but Billy gets in his way and Hugh gives Billy a stern warning because Billy injured his wounded finger.
Whatever you're about in future, watch your step. Never know who you might run into.
Luther goes to table 12 to give Ethan a transfer camera and runs back to the van to start the transfer. They watch Dr. Sergei Gradsky being infected with Chimera and what the virus can do. Ethan wants Naya to bail because it has become too dangerous and Ethan will get her out if she can't do it. Hugh spots Naya and shows up behind her after Ethan vanishes. Sean notices Naya slipping the SD card back in and when they return to the hideout, he gets Hugh to dispose of the SD card. When John is done with work, he goes home but the driver poisons John with Chimera on the way. John is placed in quarantine and Dr. Nekhorvich tells John he's infected with Chimera. He baits John to tell him why Chimera was created and finds out he's a greedy pig who's willing to sacrifice people's lives for profit.
Creating a disease so terrible in Chimera, the cure would be priceless. I'm in business to make money.
Turns out Dr. Nekhorvich was Ethan and he wants to destroy Chimera so Sean won't have a virus to cure with Bellerophon. Billy wakes John up to make him think what he went through was a dream. Naya sneaks out when she notices Sean missing. She is glad she runs into Ethan, but it is Sean in disguise. He tells Naya not to alarm Sean and to do whatever he says. Sean is furious that she doesn't love him and thanks Hugh for a job well done. Ethan comes up with a game plan to sneak into Biosite as stealthily as possible to avoid casualties. Sean predicts Ethan's plan from looking at his track record and believes he will destroy Chimera but Sean will stop him. Ethan flies to the top of Biosite to rappel down and luckily Luther gets the fans to open up when Ethan rappels down. Ethan unhooks himself so Billy can retract the cable before it alarms the security system on the fan. He gears up when he locates the virus and destroys the virus in the incubation room. Sean arrives at Biosite, and Luther notices Naya in the building. He assumes Sean brought her there, but he can't get through to Ethan until the generators go off. Someone places a bomb on the van where Luther is quarterbacking and Luther notices it but he gets stuck when the bomb goes off. Ethan goes to destroy the last sample but Sean arrives to stop Ethan from destroying the last vial. They engage in a gunfight but plot armor saves Ethan from the trained gunman. Ethan starts dual-wielding CSGO's dual Beretta like a beast and tries to get the vial but gets trapped when he fails. Sean brings out Naya to force her to get the vial because he knows Ethan will stay put. Naya injects herself with Chimera after picking it up and Sean is unable to shoot her because she will cause him to lose $37 million. Ethan blows up the place and brings Naya with him to get away. The guards storm the room after the explosion and they get into a gunfight with Sean's men. Ethan is annoyed Naya injected herself but now he knows she loves him.
I wasn't thinking! Just trying to stop you from getting hurt, that's all!
Naya wants Ethan to end her because she thinks they can't make it out together. Ethan breaches the wall to escape and promises to cure her before he leaves because he isn't willing to sacrifice her. Luther somehow survived the explosion and needs to fix the computer before they can track Naya's location but Naya will end herself to not infect others with the virus. Sean drops off Naya and meets with John to make their trade. Ethan climbs up to the meetup location and swiftly takes out the guards one by one. He sneaks in to surprise attack a guard and puts him to sleep. Sean takes out Chimera and Bellerophon, and a doctor does his due diligence. John will give them the money, but Sean wants to use the $30 million to buy Biosite stock options because he plans to spread the virus and make billions off the options.
When your stock goes north of 200, those options will be worth billions.
Ethan throws an explosive at the door and shoots it when someone opens the door. He shows himself, and Sean orders his men to take down Ethan. Sean is in a hurry to get his money and gets John to start the transfer. Hugh leads a group of men to look for Ethan but a pigeon gives Ethan's position away after everyone splits up. Ethan kicks Hugh but he pulls a gun and Ethan unpins a grenade when Hugh tells him to raise his hand. The explosion knocks them both out but Sean can apprehend Ethan. Hugh brings Ethan to Sean so he can torture Ethan before he terminates him. Sean notices Ethan's pinky is bandaged up and screams in agony when he finds out he terminated Hugh. Ethan runs out of there with the virus and cure, but the guards stop Ethan from escaping on the helicopter. He easily shoots the guards who are in his way and gets Luther to clear the bridge for him. Luther switches to the grenade launcher to take them out for shooting at him so Ethan can get past the bridge. Ethan shoots the gunman and blows up a car with his amazing aim. Luther fixes the computer to locate Naya, and Ethan wants Billy to pick her up because they are running out of time to save her. Ethan sees a truck coming and blinds his pursuers to let the truck take them out. Sean can catch up to shoot at Ethan, but he can hide behind the motorcycle and they enjoy a game of cat and mouse. They start hand-to-hand combat after crashing their motorcycles. Sean seems to be getting the upper hand after hitting Ethan with a rock and pulls a knife because he can't fight like a man. Ethan can take the knife away from Sean with his strength, but Sean can bait Ethan to not use it and they continue fighting.
Go ahead, use it, Hunt. It's not a bad way to go.
Naya is on the edge ready to jump, but they arrive in time to pick her up and they fly over to Ethan. A coward Sean is getting his ass whooped and goes for the gun, but Ethan can disarm him to continue with the beatdown. Sean drops onto a rock after Ethan's kick and Ethan sees his lifeless body. Ethan goes to Naya when they arrive, but Sean is just pretending to be dead to pull a gun on them. Ethan tosses the cure to Luther to kick up the gun to shoot Sean multiple times to ensure his death. Luther injects Naya with the cure and Ethan is glad she's okay. Ethan reports back to Swanbeck on completing his mission. Swanbeck is disappointed Ethan couldn't bring back a sample and expunges all of Naya's criminal records. Ethan goes to meet up with Naya later on to enjoy his vacation. Well, that's it for Mission Impossible 2. If you got up to this far, watch the next part or other recaps you may like. If you enjoyed the video, please support me with a like and comments. Don't forget to subscribe, and thanks for watching.
Hunt! You should have killed me.